Hi, good morning, viewer. Welcome back to my channel. Now, if you are new here, would kindly hope that you can subscribe to my channel so that I can continue my effort to produce wonderful video like this and benefit everybody. Now, today the topic is going to be about the global real estate property agency and brokerage industry. So this video will be very much in two parts. One, the first part will be talking about the global aspect, and the second part will be focusing on Singapore. So do watch out for both parts of this video. So let's begin today's video, which is focusing on the global property brokerage industry. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered how the global real estate industry actually works? Not just the buying and selling, but the entire engine behind it. Who controls the money? Who trains the agent? Or who makes the rule? And how does a tiny state like Singapore end up producing the most disciplined, most regulated, and the most professional property brokerage industry in all of Asia? Now, I know you are thinking, so this whole thing is going to be very intensive, and you are right, it is. But I promise you, every single section of this video is going to reward you and bring you information that you require, whether you are a property investor, a working agent, or a real estate entrepreneur, or someone who just want to understand this whole industry, including Singapore property agency industry. Okay, now let's begin this video. Now, if there's a question that most people will never think to ask. When we say about property brokerage, what exactly are we talking about? Because now it turns out to be this industry is far more diverse, far more complicated, and far more important and also interesting than just helping someone buy a home or sell a house. Now, let me walk you through the slide that I provided here, which classified the 9 major types of real estate brokerage services globally. So this slide is very informative, so I will just read some briefly. The residential sales is the biggest. They constitute about 32% of the global revenue. Now, this is a segment most people are familiar. So, you are familiar with Singapore version, the PropNet. A lot of the property broker put leaflet in your mailbox asking you to transact or to sell or to buy a property. Now, typical commission actually is between 1 to 3% on a global basis of the transaction price. Now, if you look further down the tables, then things are getting interesting. So not only residential sales, there are also commercial office leasing, and whereby CBRE and JLL are the main players. They can actually command 5 to 15% of the first year rent as commission. Now, why? Because negotiating a 10-year lease for a Fortune 500 company headquarter is an enormously complex, high-stake, and obviously intensive progress. So the expertise command premium fees. Now, the next come to industrial and logistic brokerage, whereby you can count warehouses, data centers, logistic parks, and the rest of the kind of property that group under this area. Now, this area also need brokerage so that a buyer and seller can efficiently conclude their transaction. Now, the rest, I'll leave it to you to go through it so that at least you know, at least you won't fall asleep. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. I think the figure will catch your attention will be the current market size is about 1.54 trillion US dollar. Now, this is the size of the global real estate agency and brokerage market in 2025, not the value of property transacted. That will be even much more. There will be even hundreds of trillions of dollars. So I'm just talking about the revenue earned by all the agencies and advisors from all these transactions. Now, $1.45 trillion, what does it mean? Let me give you some comparison. This figure is even larger than Australia's entire GDP, larger than Spain, larger than Russia, and also larger than some country that you are familiar like Indonesia. Now, if we look at the table, or look at the slide, look at 2021, after the COVID-19, that year actually received a 1.08 trillion revenue, and this is a growth of 8.2% because of the pent-up demand and near zero interest rate. So if you look at 2023, the growth slows to about 3.4% because interest rates start to hike and then mortgage market, commercial real estate market volumes collapse. But notice, the property agency market didn't shrink, it just grew more slowly. And now you look at 2025, it back to 6% growth. Why? Global rate cuts are working through the system. Asia Pacific is surging, AI adoption is improving efficiency, and industrial and data center demand is unstopped. It is huge. Okay, now let's look at the next slide. Again, I will break down which are the sectors that contribute to this US 1.54 trillion global market revenue from property brokerage and agency. So if you look at the slide, which is very informative, again, residential property or brokerage accounted for about 60% of the global market value at about close to 1,924 billion. Of course, this is the bread and butter of the industry globally. But if you look at within the residential segment, the lease and rental sub-segment actually achieved a 7.1% cumulative average growth rate projected to 2030, faster than the residential sales. Why? Because I think the trend of build to rent is booming and co-living is expanding. And Asia Pacific urban rental markets are professionalizing at a pace that nobody can imagine. Another segment that you can take a look will be the industrial and logistics segment. Even though it's sitting at about 9% of the market share, but actually it's growing at 12.3% cumulative growth rate. The rest will become the rest of the contributor to the global revenue will be from property management, some of the services like advisory, asset management, and valuation. So all this you can see from the slide yourself so that you won't fall asleep. Okay, now let's come to the global real estate agency or brokerage in terms of region breakdown. So I put down there in this slide, and you can go through it again. Not surprising, North America remains the largest single region at about US 537 billion. So this is about 35% of the global market, but the projected growth rate to 2030 is only 4.5%. Why? Because this market is mature. So if you look at Asia Pacific, even though it's lower, at about 30% of global share today, US 462 billion, but it's projected to reach US 745 billion by 2030. So this is a growth rate of 10%, and this is where the engine should be. And if you look at other markets like Middle East and Africa, the growth rate is even higher at 13.1%, and is expected to grow from the current 108 billion to 200 billion. So it's almost doubling. So these are all the area or the region that contribute to the existing pie of the market and also the prospected or estimated growth rate going forward. Okay, now in order to understand this industry, you must know who are the top players in this industry. So again, I put up this slide. I named the top four. The top four players in this industry, they actually dominate this industry globally. First in the ranking will be CBRE Group. So they actually make revenue of about 30 billion for the year 2024, which is up 14% year on year, and they employ 130,000 employees. And the second one will be John Land LaSalle. We call them JLL. So they are at about 20 billion revenue. So this is the second largest, and they are actually quite strong in Asia Pacific. So the third one will be Cushman and Wakefield. So these are the third one in terms of size, in terms of the number of market share that they actually capture. And the fourth one will be Colliers. So again, I won't go into further detail. The information are very clearly put down in the slide above, and you can always pause the movie and take a closer look. Okay, now the next slide, actually, I go further deeper into all these major players in the industry by looking at where do they make their money from. So if you look at CBRE, and then you can see that leasing advisory actually account for 7.5 billion of their total revenue. This represents about 26% of the total revenue. And that's transaction dependent, meaning that if you complete the transaction, you make the money. So it's definitely it's quite sensitive income. When the market is good, you earn more. When the market is low good, you earn less. But then look at the real estate investment and asset under management under CBRE. It actually contributed about 28% of the revenue, which is at 8.1 billion. Now, this is recurring fee-based and relatively stable income tied to long-term mandates from institutional investors. So this is a very steady flow of income for CBRE. Now, how about JLL? JLL actually shows a similar pattern. 25% in property management, 21% in investment management, and the rest of the revenue are all from transaction or mainly from transaction. The third player, you can see that they actually make a higher return or higher revenue from leasing and capital market, which is asset management, valuation, and also some other services that they provide. And the rest, I think you can look at the slide yourself. And I think later on, when I talk about Singapore situation, I'll talk about PropNet, which is a major player in this industry in Singapore. Maybe to be fair to those viewer who are focusing more on the residential transaction of the property brokerage industry, I have produced this slide above to introduce some of the pure player in the global residential brokerage industry. So if you look at the one that's the biggest, you can see that Keeler Williams, this is the world's largest residential property agency, and they have about 180,000 agents across 55 countries, and they actually make 400 billion in annual sales volume. Other players also listed down here. You can go through them slowly. But one very important to mention is the residential property agent in China is called 贝壳早屋. So if you go China often, you can always see their shop, their banner, their franchisees all over major towns of China, including the second and third liner cities. So here they actually employed 400,000 agents, and the whole platform actually generating renminbi 77 billion in revenue. So these are some of the information that to show you on a pure residential transaction agency business. These are the key players. Of course, coming back to Singapore, then we have the PropNet, which is a listed company. They have about 12,600 agents, and they actually achieve a 1.1 billion revenue in the year 2025. So roughly what kind of commission rate are all these players charge their end clients? So this slide, I actually put up all the information here. You can take a look at this slide closely, and this is just the average. So on a global basis for residential sales, the commission is about 1 to 3% shared between the agency and the agent. So this is a total amount. So the net money that earned by the agent will be smaller because the agency will take a cut. Now, if you look at other sector, for example, other transaction like commercial sales for commercial property, the commission is higher, but it's lumpy because this is a very complicated transaction and it will take a long time, a lot of manpower. And so it's not that regular, it's not that frequent. And the rest of the information, you can go through this slide yourself to avoid you from switching to another video or falling asleep. Okay, this slide is going to be also very interesting. That will show you what kind of business model that all these players are actually penetrating their markets, whether it's a current market or targeted market. Now, here's the most fascinating structural facts about the global property industry. Now, despite decades of franchise expansion, technology scaling, and consolidation, the overwhelming majority of the world real estate agents still operate through small, locally focused businesses. Now, this is especially true for some of the following countries. For example, if you look at India, 78% independent. That means the vast majority of Indian property transactions still happen through individual brokers with local knowledge, personal network, and no formal company affiliation. Now, how about Germany? Germany is about 72% independent, meaning that, again, it's a smaller agency, localized agency. But there is one exception for Singapore. Now, Singapore is only 5% independent from independent agency. Now, 88% of the property agency work for big company or big national change. For example, PropNet, ERA, Huttons and Orange Tea and Thai and all these things. Why? Why is Singapore different? Because of the CEA, Council for Estate Agency regulatory framework. Regulatory requirement make the operating cost very, very significant. And of course, because of that, it will push all the agents towards a larger and well-resourced platform so that they can absorb these costs and to achieve economic of scale. Okay, the next slide I think will be very interesting to a lot of people. So please concentrate. Do not switch out of this video because the following slide give you a lot of information and you will influence your decision making. Now let's look at all the people that actually contribute to this industry. I mean, despite all the technology advancement, AI, you still need human beings to run on the ground so that to get all these transactions closed. And naturally, these people don't work for free. They want to earn income. So let's address the income question directly. Now, for the US side, the median salary for property agent is about 54,000 US per year. And in Australia, it's about 70,000. How about Singapore? Singapore is between 55,000 to 70,000 gross. This is gross. That means you have to share with the agencies, share the platform. So the actual money that the broker receives is much lower. Now, in Singapore, after all these expenses, all these sharing and including taxes, the median income for average Singapore agent is about 35,000 Sing to 50,000 Sing a year. Now, if you use this number to dismiss the profession of this industry, then of course you have to look at the top 10%. Now, in the US, the top 10% earn about 250,000 US per year. And in Singapore, the top 10% earn about 500,000 Sing to about 1 million Sing a year. In Dubai, that's also 1 million plus. Now, the earning ceiling of all these property agencies is one of the highest of any non-licensed profession in the world. You don't need a law degree, you don't need a medical degree, you just need skill, persistence, and the discipline to build a referral network over years. Now, how about the age? The median agent age is in USA is about 55% because this one, a lot of the women after their children have grown up and start to work, they actually return back to the job industry, and the immediate job industry that they can think of is to be a property agent. Now, in UK, the age is 42, and in Singapore, it's between 38 to 42. Now, Singapore's agency is slightly younger because of CAE effort to get in more young professionals to participate in this industry. And the next one that I think a lot of people will be interested to know will be the 2-year attrition rates, people who give up and then leave. So in USA, the rates is about 40 to 50%, meaning that about half of the new agent left the industry in the first 2 years. How about Singapore? Singapore is lower at 28 to 32%. So this nearly 1 in 3 Singapore agent leaves within 2 years. The first 2 years are the hardest. Income is low or even zero. The client base is thin, and the temptation to return to a stable salary job is rare. Now, this one is more technical and academic, so I won't go through in detail. You can read from the slide. Now, what does this slide represent? These are all the macro factors that actually affect the revenue. For example, GDP growth, interest rate movement, and all these things, policy changes by different government in different countries that will affect the transaction, the urge to buy or sell a house. So again, this one is quite common sense. I put this in for completion so that you can actually read through yourself, so I won't go through in detail. This slide that coming up next will be more interesting to a lot of property agents. So I actually named this slide called the disintermediation risk by transaction type because of upcoming technology such as AI. So this slide is called the agent persistence analysis slide. Now, for a long time, we actually hear people predict that real estate agents are about to be made irrelevant. Now, in the 90s, it was the online listing, such as Classified Act, and in the 2010, it was iBuyer, some of the online platform. Now, it currently is the AI. But yet, in the year 2025, there are more licensed real estate agencies globally than ever before in history. Now, even if we look at Singapore case, Singapore registered salesperson count has grown from 25,000 in 2014 to over 36,000 in 2025. Now, what actually is going on? So let us find out some honest answer available based on the transaction by transaction disintermediation risk assessment. So depending on what type of transaction. Now, what is the highest risk of the transaction that will be taken over by technology, or the transaction will be very much handled by technology? So if you look at standard residential rental, this one there's a rating of 7 out of 10, meaning is the being replaced or take over by technology is quite high. So a lot of the standard flat for rent in Singapore, for example, matching tenants to available listing, completing the paperwork technology platform are now handle more of this process every year. So this is a very natural trend. But if you look at the next one that also carries some risk will be the standard mid-market residential resale. A lot of people who are doing this are actually doing themselves or go straight to the online platform whereby they can reduce commission and also if they can handle all this legal process themselves. But one slightly safe one will be the luxury residential above 3 million. And why is this so? Because wealthy clients don't want an algorithm like AI to help them. They want a trusted advisor who has handled many transactions, who knows which seller are motivated to pay a higher price, and they can walk through this client through the complexity of high-value property acquisition. So again, the risk of being replaced by technology is the lowest for the luxury residential segment. Now, coming to commercial investment sale, this is also quite low because the relationship, the due diligence process in between the deal structuring and fundraising, these are not easily replaceable by AI or technology platforms. So again, the rest I think you all can read through yourself. I won't repeat it here. Now, this slide, I think you are more familiar than me actually, but for completion of this video, I actually put down this slide, which is called the Global Real Estate Asset Class Performance by Sector. So you can see all kind of different classes of property on a globally basis, what were their performances in the last few years in view of the pandemic boom, the rate-induced correction, the uneven recovery, and all compressed into this table for you all to go through. Again, it's quite informative. I won't spend time going through it. If not, my voice will make you sleep or either switch video. At least this one will help you to focus on what are presented in this slide. If not, I'm quite sure a lot of your friends will also go through this slide. Maybe they even do a screenshot and also put this thing down, and they can actually forward to all their clients if required. Now, for this one, we are coming to the end of the video soon, but again, I think I need to present all the key industry challenges in this industry. Now, for every great industry analysis, we have to be honest about the headwinds that are coming. So the global property brokerage industry, like other industries, will also face with a lot of headwinds, competition, challenge from technology. And so this slide, we actually put down there some of the key risks that will be on the radar of all the players in this industry. Now, the first one will be the commission compression. This one, the score is about 8 out of 10 severity. Because now buyer and seller can access more market data themselves, and their willingness to pay full service commissions will definitely reduce. Like in the USA, a lot of co-broking reform and all this is also changing the commission sharing quite significantly. Now, the second risk factor will be interest rate volatility. This is ranked. They have a score of 8 out of 10, meaning a lot of people view this very important. This is a revenue swing variable that no agency can control. So this is a systematic risk. A 1% move in rates can shift transaction volume by 20 to 35%. So if the interest rate increase, you can see property transaction drop by 20 to 35% globally on an average. So this is one of the key risks that is facing the property brokerage industry globally. Now, there's also something that is quite unique. It's called the AML compliance burden, which is catching the eyeball of many property agency and player in the industry recently. And I will mention some of the things that catch your eyeball recently. You can read from the local newspaper or some of the global news. AML compliance stands for anti-money laundering compliance. So the onus now is on the property agency to make sure that no one buy or sell residential property from dirty money or using dirty money. So again, there is a burden to make sure that there is a know your client, to make sure that the money is clean. So again, this is also one of the risks because it's not free services, is a highly regulated or requirement services required by all these agency or agent, and that will add their cost or even reduce some of the transaction if the money or if the client KYC is not being approved. Of course, the rest I will not go through. You can look at some of the factors also listed in this slide yourself. Okay, good news. This is the last slide of this video. So thanks for watching all the way here. But again, for the last slide, I want to do a conclusion. Now, we have done all this analysis. I provided a lot of information about what kind of commission, how the global property brokerage or agency market is being formed, who are the main player, what kind of commission that they earn, how about the salary for the top 10% for the average and all this. So again, let's look at some of the market trend forecast by region and segment. Now, again, I gather a lot of, I read through a lot of research report and I put out there some of the aggregation of their findings. So again, the headline number, US 1.54 trillion in the year 2025 and is expected to grow to 2.225 trillion by 2030. Now, that is quite a significant amount, but the growth rate is not as spectacular compared to other regions like Asia Pacific, which will grow from 462 billion to 745 billion. Now, another area of growth will be the Middle East and Africa. Again, despite the fact that it's starting from a low base at 108 billion, it is more or less forecasted to be doubled by the year 2030. So again, I will leave all these reading to you all. One segment that requires some licensing or special knowledge will be the advisory and management segment. As you know, in Singapore, if you want to do all this asset management, you need required license and some of the experience. So again, even though this is also one of the high growth area, it's more professional, it's more protected, and it's more regulated. So again, it's one area for you to consider if you have the determination to get the license, the fund management license or advisory license to enter into this segment of the global property brokerage and agency business. Okay, now we have come to the end of this video. So again, I mentioned in the beginning that this video actually has two parts. The first part will be talking about the global property agency and real estate business, and I will do another second part which will focus on Singapore. So do watch out for the two parts which I will put up on the platform on a 3 days interval basis. So again, thank you for watching my video. Do subscribe to my video, give me some support so I can produce some video to help you reduce your time to spend on research so that you can use all this information here to benefit your career, benefit your business decision. Again, thank you very much for watching. Until the next movie, bye bye.